In the early 20th century, a complex web of alliances, imperial ambitions, and surging nationalism had turned Europe into a powder keg. All it needed was a single spark to ignite a global catastrophe. This is the story of the Great War, a conflict that would shatter empires, redraw the world map, and forever change the course of human history. It all began on a sunny June day in 1914. In the city of Sarajevo, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated by a Serbian nationalist. This act of political violence was the trigger. Austria-Hungary, seeking to crush Serbian nationalism once and for all, issued an ultimatum. Russia, the self-proclaimed protector of the Slavic peoples, mobilized its vast army in support of Serbia. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, then declared war on Russia and its ally France. As German troops marched through neutral Belgium to strike at Paris, Great Britain declared war on Germany. Within weeks, the continent was engulfed in flames. With the Central Powers, Germany and Austria-Hungary, pitted against the Allied powers, France, Britain, and Russia. On the Western Front, Germany's initial plan for a swift victory faltered. At the First Battle of the Marne in September 1914, French and British forces managed to halt the German advance just miles from Paris. What followed was a brutal stalemate. Both sides dug in, creating a vast and intricate network of trenches that stretched for 475 miles. From the North Sea to the Swiss border, this nightmarish landscape of mud, barbed wire, and death would define the war for the next 4 years. The soldiers endured unimaginable conditions, facing machine gun fire, artillery bombardments, and poison gas attacks. The front lines barely moved, yet millions would die in a futile war of attrition, fighting over mere yards of shell-pocked earth. While the West was locked in a deadlock, the Eastern Front was a theater of sweeping movement and immense scale. Here, the less industrialized but massive Russian army clashed with German and Austro-Hungarian forces across vast, open territories. In August 1914, at the Battle of Tannenberg, German forces under Generals Hindenburg and Ludendorff achieved a stunning victory, encircling and destroying an entire Russian army. This decisive engagement showcased the superiority of German military organization and logistics. Despite this and other crushing defeats, the sheer size of the Russian army, the Russian steamroller, kept the Central Powers tied down, forcing them to fight a draining two-front war. The conflict soon spilled beyond the borders of Europe, becoming a true world war. In 1915, the Allies launched an ambitious naval and land campaign at Gallipoli, hoping to knock the Ottoman Empire, a central power, out of the war and open a supply route to Russia. The campaign was a disastrous failure. Allied troops, primarily from Australia and New Zealand, were pinned down on the beaches by determined Turkish resistance, leading to a bloody stalemate and eventual evacuation after months of heavy casualties. The war also raged at sea, where German U-boats or submarines waged a ruthless campaign against Allied shipping. The sinking of the British passenger liner Lusitania in 1915, which killed over 1,000 people, including 128 Americans, sparked international outrage and brought the United States closer to the brink of war. The year 1916 witnessed two of the most horrific battles in human history, embodying the senseless slaughter of the Western Front. In February, Germany launched a massive offensive against the French fortress city of Verdun, with the aim of bleeding the French army white. For 10 agonizing months, the two sides fought a relentless battle of attrition, turning the surrounding hills and forests into a hellscape. The French held their ground, famously declaring, "They shall not pass," but at a cost of over 300,000 casualties. In July, the British launched their own major offensive, the Battle of the Somme, hoping to relieve the pressure on Verdun. The first day alone resulted in nearly 60,000 British casualties, the deadliest day in the history of the British Army. By the time the battle ended in November, both sides had suffered over 1 million casualties combined. For years, the United States had maintained a policy of neutrality, but German actions pushed the nation to its breaking point. In early 1917, Germany resumed unrestricted submarine warfare, sinking American merchant ships. The final straw was the Zimmermann telegram, a secret message from Germany to Mexico proposing a military alliance against the United States. Intercepted and deciphered by the British, its publication caused a wave of fury across America. On April 6, 1917, Congress declared war on Germany. The arrival of fresh, enthusiastic American troops, known as doughboys, provided a much-needed morale boost and crucial reinforcements for the exhausted Allied armies. By 1918, Germany knew its time was running out, with American forces arriving in ever-increasing numbers. General Ludendorff launched one final desperate gamble, the Spring Offensive. Using new stormtrooper tactics, the Germans made significant gains. But the offensive ultimately stalled, having exhausted Germany's last reserves of men and material. The Allies, bolstered by American might, launched a series of counter-offensives known as the 100 Days Offensive. The German lines broke, and its allies began to collapse. Facing revolution at home and defeat on the battlefield, Germany's leaders sought an end to the fighting. At 11 a.m. on November 11, 1918, an armistice was signed, and the guns on the Western Front finally fell silent. The Great War was over. It left behind a trail of unprecedented destruction and loss, with an estimated 16 million dead. Empires had crumbled, and a new world order was beginning to take shape. The subsequent Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, imposed harsh terms on Germany, sowing the seeds of resentment that would contribute to another, even more devastating world war just 2 decades later. The war to end all wars had failed in its ultimate promise, leaving behind a legacy of pain and a world irrevocably altered.